Hey everyone, so you're either here from this video or you're here because you like making really cool stuff. Regardless, so before I jump right into the tutorial on how I went about making my headphone covers, here's a few things I took back from like redoing it and just learning more about it. One, keep your stitches really loose. If you're not too sure how to keep the stitches loose, you can go ahead with like 4-ply yarn and just use a 5mm hook with that. That will make sure that your stitches are loose. That brings me to point number 2, which is make sure you pick a quality of yarn, a material which suits your skin. This video has 4 parts. First, I'm going to be talking about the materials I used. Second's going to be the step-by-step tutorial. Third is going to be the like attaching like a thread of yarn that goes on the circumference of the pattern so that we can create a pull and tie it around the covers, and the fourth part is going to be how we do the tying. So without further ado, let's get to it. I used around 100 to 200 meters of this 4-ply cotton yarn. Along with that, I used a 4mm hook. You'll also need a pair of scissors and you'll need a yarn needle. So to start with, we're going to make a magic ring. Once you have that in place, you want to make 6 single crochets into the magic ring, and that will be our first row. Once you have your 6 single crochets, you want to tighten up the circle and make a slip stitch in the first single crochet. So basically closing our first row with that. I just like to count the number of stitches, make sure there's 6, and we can go ahead to the next row. So for the second row, we're going to start with a chain 3 and we're going to count this as our first double crochet. So for round 2, we're going to do 1 double crochet, 1 increase, 1 double crochet, 1 increase. So since we're done with the first double crochet, we're going to go to the next stitch and do an increase. So I'm going to put 2 double crochets in the same second stitch. In the third stitch, I'm just going to put 1 double crochet. In the fourth stitch, I'm going to put 2 double crochets because it's an increase. In the fifth one, we're going to do 1 double crochet again. And the sixth one, the last one, we're going to do 2 double crochets in the same stitch, which is an increase. So just to check, you should have 9 double crochets counting the first 3 chains. You just want to slip stitch into the first double crochet, the first 3 chains, and we're done with row 2. So at this point, we're done with like the core of the donut shape for the covers, and now we're going to work cluster stitches. So for round 3, we're going to start with the cluster stitches. So you want to chain 3 and make 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So we're going to do clusters of 3 double crochets in each stitch. So once you're done making 2 double crochets, you want to chain 1 and then skip 1 stitch at the bottom. So I'm just going to chain 1 and I'm skipping 1 stitch at the bottom, and I'm going to make 3 double crochets in the next stitch. skipping that, going in the next one, skipping that here and making 3 double crochets here. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch at the bottom and make 3 double crochets in the next stitch. Once again, I'll chain 1 and 3 double crochets in the next stitch, and this is pretty much the pattern you follow for row 3. So once you're at the end, you should have 1 stitch left at the bottom, and we're going to chain 1 and slip stitch into the first double crochet, which is the first 3 chains we made. So we're done with row 3, and for row 4 we're going to now it's pretty much similar, but we're going to chain 3, count that as our first double crochet, and we're going to make 2 more double crochets in the same stitch. So once you're done with 2 double crochets, you want to chain 1, and now we're going to work our clusters into the big gaps, wherever you can see the big gaps on your pattern. It's basically where we did the chain 1 before. So once you're done with your 2 double crochets, you chain 1 and you work your 3 double crochets into the big gap. So that's 1, second one, and 3. So once you're done with 3 double crochets, you want to chain 1 and move on to the next big gap. 2, 3 double crochets in the big gap, chain 1, then 3 double crochets in the next big gap. This is pretty much what you follow till the end. So once you're at the last gap, you want to slip stitch into the first double crochet, which are our 3 chains. Now for the next few rows, you have to pretty much do the same thing. So you chain 3 and then you do 2 double crochets in the same stitch, and then you chain 1. So that's 3 in total in the first stitch. You chain 1 and then you work into the big gaps. So 3 double crochets in the big gap, chain 1, 3 double crochets in the big gap. Again, you do this till you have a size big enough for your headphones. It took me a total of 6 rows. Your headphone pads might be bigger, you might need more, so keep checking the size as well. So once you're happy with the size, you can fasten off your yarn and you're done with the one of your headphone covers. So I know the shape might seem a bit odd because we've added an increase at the start of every row. If you noticed, we did 1 extra cluster in the first stitch, but here's basically how we're going to fix that. So it just looks a little mountain on one side, like it's like a crown. So we're just gonna give it a nice pull like that. Since our stitches are loose, it's going to nicely take a good circular shape once you give it a nice stretch like that. And once you have that in place, you're going to do that entire process once more. And once you're done with both the yarn covers, we're going to need the yarn needle. You want to attach your yarn to the yarn needle, and now we're going to work on the outer loops of the stitches. So you know how there's a V shape, right, to these stitches? We're going to work on the outer lines. So just going in the first one, Getting in the second. So I'm gonna do it in parts. I'm not, because obviously it's a circle, it'll be very difficult to work in all the stitches at once. So I'm gonna take about 7 to 8 stitches, just like that, and then pull the yarn through. Just pulling the yarn at this point, and once I've pulled it, I'm just going to repeat that till I've met the point where I started sewing in the yarn. So it basically has to go all around the circle, the entire circumference. So here's what it looks like once you've gotten that done. So it's going to create this mechanism where when you pull the yarn, it'll just, close the covers. And that's basically how we're going to tie it around the pads. So once you're done doing that with both the covers, give it a nice pull, place it on your headphones, make sure it's placed how you'd like it. Just place the cord right inside, and make sure the corners are all around how you'd like it. Once you're happy with how it looks, give the yarn threads a good pull. Make sure it's tightly placed exactly how you like it. And now we're basically going to wrap it around. So just wrapping the yarn from both sides like a ribbon. So going ahead with that one first. So the good thing about my headphones are they have this rim dent, and one round nicely gets placed inside them. Just works in my favor, but you can just place it right at the corner as well. So just to be super secure, I'm going to make a triple knot here. Once I'm done with my triple knot, I'm just going to cut off the excess yarn. You can also choose to just weave it inside the stitches if you choose not to cut it off. And you're going to want to do the same thing to the other pads as well, and you should have something like that. I hope that was helpful, and I have attached a bunch of resources in the description, like the material of yarn I used and just a little more clarity on certain steps. I've also added timestamps. I hope that helps, and in case you have any more questions, you can always reach out to me on my Instagram, which is Crochet. It's Crochet, but with a J, because J. Please subscribe to this channel if you really enjoyed or liked this pattern, because I'm very hopeful I'm going to be putting out a lot more like this, and I already do have a lot on my Instagram, and if you like anything there, you can always check the caption for more details on the materials I used for it, the patterns I used. Everything is just out there. Okay, thanks for watching. Have fun.